Yo, what's the word? What's the word? What's the word, man? Plausible deniability. We right back, man. It's episode number 6. Again, off top, man. I appreciate all the love and support that I've been getting. Everybody been hitting me up. Definitely letting me know how they feel about the content, man. Much love to y'all. Definitely also the constructive criticism. You know what I mean? It's being put to good use. We updating, like I said, this whole thing I'm doing right here. It's a work in progress, right? All the feedback. I'm definitely grateful for it all. Man, first off, if you like the content, just do me a favor and like the content. You feel me? If you know somebody who might agree, somebody else who might disagree with the content, man, just go ahead and share it with them. I'm a big fan of having a friendly debate, being able to go back and forth, testing my opinion. I feel like that's something that we probably don't do as often as we need to in the current world that we live in. So it's kind of good that the things that you build your ideals upon, you know what I mean, that you take your morals from, I think they need to be tested time to time just to make sure that you're on the right track. And trust me, I'm definitely not above that. So, you know, anybody who disagrees with anything that I happen to be sharing here, feel free, hit me up in the comments, whatever platform you checking me out on, hit me up and we could definitely have a discussion. So this episode, this is something that's kind of like most of them. It's been on my mind for some years now, right? This topic here, kind of all throughout my years of schooling, from middle school to high school, even the little bit of college that I did. I would tend to notice different similarities in different classes that I would take, whether it's a science class or history class, biology, specifically learning about anatomy, human anatomy, right? And also the similarities between human and animal anatomy, because let certain people tell it, evolution is everything, and that's where we come from, right? So, and just like most things, I feel like I can find the nuance in it. I can take what I find to be truthful and take the rest with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? And again, I feel like that's really important. I feel like it's good to get kind of all angles of an argument before you form your opinion on it. But even other classes, psychology, sociology, it's all really interesting subjects when you break them down and just how it all connects to everyday life. Even advertising and marketing, it all kind of gives you a little bit of a better outlook on what makes us tick as people, as individuals. And I feel like everybody is it's just like a snowflake. Everybody is unique in their own personal way. Their personality traits, their quirks, what makes people tick. But at the same time, we definitely all have some core, similarities, some baseline things that make us a species, right? And again, some of those things I would say we definitely do share with the animal kingdom. And there's a scientific way to look at all of that and the connections between them. And to be honest, the older I've gotten and just the experiences that I've had with people, both good and bad. I remember back in school, you take math class, you be in math class and you be taking algebra or something like that, right? And the teacher will tell you, you got to learn this because you're not always going to have a calculator. And that's something that, the world that we live in, that's probably one of the biggest things. I won't call it an outright lie, but I'll say that it's one of the biggest things. I look back and, the authority figures, they was probably very wrong about that, for better or for worse. But again, I feel like something that kind of gets overlooked a lot in the society we live in, with maybe just a lot of the pop culture and just the quick topics that you come across without having the time to do any real background research. I feel like anatomy does tend to get overlooked a lot in the current world that we living in. And there's some people that would say that that's a planned thing for society. But I guess what I want to cover is kind of some similarities between anatomy and, again, kind of how human beings act, how human beings move, and kind of the correlation between us and the animal kingdom, right? And this is like that in psychology, the ink blot test, where it's like, you know, I could put a picture on the screen and ask 100 different people what they see, and they'll probably all come up with possibly similar but different things that a picture like this expresses to them. So, you know, me personally, you know, I kind of see the different, you know, the unique but similar animals that make up most of this picture, which would be the sheep, right? And I feel like that's us, that's human beings, you know. Some of us may have a little bit shorter hair than others, you know what I mean? Different other facial features, all kind of different features, you know. But then you look at this guy in the middle, right? And maybe from far away, it would be harder to tell that this is a different animal in this picture than the rest of them. But I think kind of the more critically we think as people, you know, the closer that you look at things, you kind of get a better idea of the differences. And me personally, again, I kind of equate that to what we get in media. You know, like I said before, my background is kind of in creating music, creating rap music, all the different steps of that, everything that goes into that. And again, it's called a production for a reason. It's the same thing, you know, audio and visual. So it's kind of the same thing with Hollywood and making movies, you know, television, all of that. I see a lot of similarities between those productions and how kind of things get brought to you. It's never just putting words behind the microphone and then it comes straight to you like that. Like there's a lot that goes into enhancing the quality and making it palatable for the largest group of people, or for whatever the targeted group of people is, right? When you look at behind the scenes, any of your favorite shows, or again your favorite movies or anything like that, even just small things like the makeup that gets put on to again make the people on screen in the final product kind of more appealing to the eye. It's all kind of things like that I think happen just in nature in general, again in the animal kingdom. And I find some of those things to be just innate. It's in you, you know what I mean? It's kind of something that you do without even thinking about it, right? And I think we're wired that way, you know, for a reason. But something that I remember learning a lot about back in school, something that there may not be as much gray area in, is kind of the connection between predator and prey. You know, I think most things in life, again, specifically talking about humans, about all throughout the animal kingdom, all throughout nature, you know, most relationships, maybe not all, but most relationships kind of work off of, at a baseline, kind of work off of that idea. There's predator and there's prey in all kind of different contexts of that. So we look at this guy in the middle, and this is obviously not like the rest of them. This is a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? On the outside, far away, it may look like a sheep, but it's not. More specifically, this is likely a predator mixed in and blending in with his prey. And there tends to be a reason for that. And again, I think, me personally, I think that's something that equates to humans and maybe some of the content that we consume in the world that we live in currently, right? All right, so aggressive mimicry, right? This is something that's always kind of stuck out to me because I feel like the older I've gotten, I've been able to notice similarities between this phrase here in the animal kingdom, or in just nature itself, and human beings, and especially in the world that we live in today, even down to, you know, between sexes, right? So it says aggressive mimicry, a form of similarity in which a predator or parasite gains an advantage by its resemblance to a third party. It says this model may be the prey or a host species itself, or it may be a species that the prey does not regard as threatening. So as opposed to, I guess the opposite of this would be something called defensive mimicry, where the prey tends to make itself look like something that the predator doesn't consider prey. In aggressive mimicry, it's a predator that dresses up in whatever context. It's a predator that dresses up as something the prey doesn't recognize as harmful or as threatening. You know, and again, I think if you sit and kind of marinate on that for a second, you could think of a bunch of different ways that kind of relates to just our own personal human interactions, right? But definitely in the animal world, like, it's plenty of different things. You know, butterflies kind of have something like this, where you'll look at their wings, and from far away, some people will have you believe that they've adapted or evolved, but however they've come to be formed, you'll look at certain things like butterflies, or even more so, a big thing that kind of does this are certain type of spiders that may be small on the scale of, you know, their species. So they do different things to make themselves look more threatening, both on the defensive side, so that, you know, an animal or an insect may not be seen as a predator, or excuse me, as prey, so that it doesn't get attacked as often. But again, on the offensive side, the aggressive mimicry, where you see predators in nature, or kind of even worse, the parasite host scenario, where the parasite does things and it'll gain an advantage. It'll gain an advantage over its host by doing things that makes it not seem like a predator, or makes the host not view it as a parasite, make itself seem less threatening, right? Or even do things, like it says here, to resemble a third party, to where it's something that the prey or the host doesn't even recognize at all. And again, I think if you kind of sit and think a little bit deeply on that, we see that a lot of times just in everyday life. Even if it's something, you know, again, somebody that may be attractive of the opposite sex. I'm sure we've all had experiences where you get to know somebody that you found so attractive, you get to know them a little bit better, and you like, wait a minute, not only are you not who I thought you were, what I thought you were, but it's like you almost the complete opposite of that. And again, while I feel like maybe in humans more so that's something that's done on purpose, I feel that there's plenty of times where it's something that is kind of just natural human behavior. And sometimes, you know, for better or for worse, there's people that do that without even thinking about it. So this video here kind of has some good examples of what I'm talking about. And again, we see other animals that kind of use this, different types of fish, you know what I mean? Different types of plants. The anglerfish, you know, that'll have this little thing on his face, you know, that maybe another animal, that's all that they'll see is this joint right here, right? But you don't realize that you're dealing with a predator. It says aggressive mimicry is a form of mimicry in which predators, parasites, or parasitoids share similar signals using a harmless model, right? Making themselves seem harmless, allowing them to avoid being correctly identified by their prey or host. That's everyday life, fam. Common among spiders, both in luring prey and stealthily approaching predators, right? In terms of the visual dimension, the distinction between aggressive mimicry and camouflage is not always clear. So unless you're thinking critically, unless you're perceptive, unless you're discerning, you can't always tell what you're looking at. I guess that's my ultimate point here, you know? You can't always tell if it's accidental or if it's on purpose. It says aggressive mimicry stands in semantic contrast with defensive mimicry, where it is the prey that acts as a mimic, with predators being duped. So sometimes, you know what I mean? And again, that's when you think about being defensive, maybe not in a confrontational sense, but when we think about being defensive, this is something that a lot of people do kind of just to avoid conflict. You make yourself seem, you know, less like somebody that can be taken advantage of. So why do I bring this stuff up, fam? I want to show you something with celebrities, and again, there's a science behind this, but something that I've come across that I do tend to believe, and maybe not in every single case, but kind of just a way to be able to discern who you're dealing with. Certain groups of people that may have this similarity, you know.
Take a look at the villains in these Disney movies. My personal favorite is Jafar, And when creating a character or drawing a portrait of another human face, a lot of deliberate thought goes into every feature. This characteristic feature of high scleral and low dip is by no mistake whatsoever. Little Mermaid is trending right now, so we're going to take a look at the villain, Ursula. Same features, beady iris, high scleral above the iris to indicate madness and hyper-expression, which, let's be real, that's kind of Ursula's character, and also below the iris to emphasize that she's very tired. You may notice some other features, high upper eyelid exposure, which is very formally called pre-tarsal show or tarsal platform, and all of them have this, all of the villains, from Cruella de Vil, Ursula, Jafar, Hades, even Claude Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, who, mind you, is a European character, so drawing villains with these characteristic eye features is not a deliberate attack on a specific ethnic group. Don't make that mistake. My best guess for why Disney villains are drawn this way is because we innately have strong feelings towards faces with these features.
So yeah, when you look into this again on a scientific level, there's really a lot of information behind this type of thing. And again, the different similarities just in people with similar facial structures, right? So I wonder, have you all ever heard this term right here, right? It says the term Sanpaku eyes gets its name from the Japanese language. It means three whites and refers to more of the white part of the eye showing either above or below the iris. In Western medicine, Sanpaku eyes is known as scleral show, which can be merely a cosmetic feature or occur after, what does that say? Blepharoplasty. So when you look deeper into this concept, right, I guess my ultimate question to you is, how many people do you know personally that kind of have this thing right here going on with their eyes versus the amount of people that you know that have eyes like this right here? Chances are, whoever you are watching this, listening to this, your eyes probably look more like this. And so I guess what I want you to think about is if you don't happen to know a lot of people in your own personal life who have eyes more like this, or the inverse where there's kind of more white at the top and on the sides, where do you tend to see this kind of physical feature in the eyes? And does that mean anything at all? Can you tell anything about a person by this? And I'm going to argue to you that there's a fair amount of people that you see in media, probably more so than you know in your personal life. There's probably more people in media, celebrities, with some form of this right here. You know, you do it just a little bit of digging, you see things like this. What are Sanpaku eyes? How to spot a liar. What are Sanpaku eyes? Definition, history, and superstition. Sanpaku eyes are associated with tragedy and violence. What are Sanpaku eyes? Can they help you spot a liar, psychopath, or narcissist? It's just funny to me because this is something that, you know, I've done hours and hours of research on, just looking into, kind of just from being interested and kind of seeing the percentages. You know, again, like I constantly ask y'all, what's the probability? Very few people we all probably know in our personal lives that have that thing going on with them physically, but at the same time, when you look at you know, famous people, for lack of a better term, it's just really prevalent. You know, something else that I happen to notice, there's a book by an author named David McGowan, right? And in this book that I'll probably show y'all a little bit later in the video, he mentions that there may be a similarity, not specifically between that just that one thing about the eyes, but there's a similarity between different serial killers, right? So that's going back into the whole predator and prey aspect. So many times, you know, in my childhood, you'll hear about these different serial killers or whatever. You know, I would just wonder, like, how do people like this happen to function in society and not get caught for so long? Technology only gets stronger and more prevalent. It's almost like, you know, I look back on certain cases, certain scenarios, and I'm like, it kind of seems like there's excuses made on why so many of them weren't caught until after they did so much damage back in the days. Kind of just never really made sense to me from a logical standpoint. It's got to be something a little bit more to it, you know? You hear different stories about different people that you know, they may get the death penalty or anything like that, you know, and then it's like people that have done horrible things, and they'll have their brain examined after they're no longer living, right? And I don't know, it just interested me. It's what is it about them that's different? You know, you look at the NFL, you look at a bunch of NFL players now, kind of the thing that's going on in pop culture is just blaming everything on CTE. And they take even boxers, you know, UFC fighters, they taking so many hits to the head where it's kind of like almost just socially accepted for them to be not normal, for them to lash out, to commit violent acts, right? Then it kind of just gets blamed on, well, yeah, it's their brain. It's the hits that they've taken, and it's kind of rewired their brain to make them do these different things. And again, I wonder, are there other physical aspects to that? Are there other physical attributes that will kind of show you, I guess, for lack of a better term, what someone is thinking, right? What type of person they are.
The sociopath stare. Since sociopaths feel shallow emotions at best, they don't get nervous around people. This means they don't feel compelled to break eye contact like most people do. Listen to Kanika explain it here.
I don't break eye contact very often. I had to physically teach myself to blink more often, which is really weird. Yeah, and to stop staring at people. It freaks them out.
Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes was infamous for going 10 seconds between blinks.
Every time you create something new, there should be questions. And to me, that's a sign that you've actually done something that is transformative.
Fam, do y'all know who this is? Elizabeth Holmes. Have you seen any pictures of this lady before? You know, I would say most people tend to have a hard time maybe going 10 seconds without blinking, you know, and kind of even further than that, just to have this kind of particular stare, you know. When you hear about different people that's been locked up or that's about to be locked up, you know, they tell you to not be taken advantage of, you know. You got to kind of form this 1,000-yard stare, you know. Because one big thing I could tell you from being incarcerated, a large problem could arise out of the smallest, you know, the most minuscule things, you know what I mean? And kind of just disagreements tend to pop off out of nowhere, really. One thing I personally saw a lot of disagreements, a lot of fights and bloodshed over was just somebody looking at somebody the wrong way, you know what I mean? Looking at someone for too long, that type of thing, you know, something that in that social setting is perceived as disrespect, right? And of course, obviously not out in the real world, in the free world, it's not it's maybe not those same type of violent consequences behind it. But again, I think it's something to it of just having an understanding of how much of the population is really like this. And then also how much of the celebrity population versus regular people kind of have those similar traits, right? So this lady right here, Elizabeth Holmes, I would say maybe she has a similar facial structure to most regular people, most regular women. And kind of what's the first thing that you notice? The first thing that I notice is kind of just the eyes here. And again, as I think about different people that I've come to know in my own personal life of all different ethnicities, I don't think I've met too many people that have had kind of this type of eye structure here, right? And then I think when you do a little bit more research, and this is an anecdotal example, you know, but when you do a little bit more research on like what this lady in particular is known for, and you compare that with people with similar backgrounds, and again, talking more so celebrities, people in media, famous people, wealthy people, you tend to see a lot more of this right here. So Elizabeth Holmes says is an American biotechnology entrepreneur who was convicted of fraud in connection to her blood testing company, Theranos. And I would definitely say, if you all haven't heard of this young lady before, you know, this is definitely an interesting person kind of just to do some research on. as well as the company that she supposedly started, especially when you take into account just the other wealthy, so-called super intelligent celebrities, people that kind of are pushed in the media these days, right? They may not all have the same facial structure as this lady here, but again, when you kind of start taking things in totality, I would say there's a lot of similarities just in their quirks, different things that they do. And again, when we do some more research on like different topics that's maybe not as well known, like this right here. Something kind of quirky that this lady right here used to do was modeling herself after the Apple guy, right? Steve Jobs. That was somebody that I think she says herself she was deeply influenced by. And to the extent that she would do a similar thing as him by a lot of her interviews, a lot of her public speaking, things like that. She would wear a black turtleneck. So from the outside looking in, you know, things like that, that makes her kind of look unassuming. You know what I mean? That makes her seem maybe like less of a threat, more relatable to the average person that's into tech, the average fan of Apple products or that company. You know what I mean? But then again, when you start taking more of her personality traits and quirks in totality, you start seeing different things that she did, you know, purposely, knowingly, that could be seen as a form of aggressive mimicry, even kind of in the business sense. All right, so what was Theranos? Theranos is the company that Elizabeth Holmes started and was the CEO of, right? So this article here says, in 2014, Theranos, a blood testing startup pitching a supposedly revolutionary technology, was flying high. While existing technology required 1 vial of blood for each diagnostic test conducted, Theranos claimed to be able to perform hundreds of tests, supposedly over 240, ranging from cholesterol levels to complex genetic analysis with just a single pinprick of blood. Automated, fast, and inexpensive, Theranos seemed to be offering technology that could revolutionize medicine and save lives worldwide, right? That's what they claim to do through this lady. The founder and CEO of Theranos had famously dropped out of Stanford to found the company using her tuition money. So that's a hustler, right? She did just like the rappers do, man. She took the bread and she made a flip, right? She was just 30 when Theranos was at its peak, having raised over 700 M's in investment from the likes of Larry Ellison and Tim Draper. The company had become the rising star of Silicon Valley and was valued at over $9 billion, while Holmes, with a share of more than half of that, was heralded as the female Steve Jobs. The only problem? The technology didn't work. So again, I want you to sit back and just kind of think. We've heard a bunch of stories like that before in the past. And again, I'm sure just you in your personal life at a much lower stakes level than this, we've come across people that, you know, will boast to know or be a certain type of person. And I think you tend to see, the more you think about people in general, and again, specifically people in media, there's regular people around them, in their vicinity, in their friend groups, in their family. And then some people look like this when you get to know them a little bit better. Again, when we talk more about physical attributes, and it's kind of like just, you know, the more you know, the more you can discern, right? Sanpaku is a Japanese term meaning 3 whites. It was introduced into English by George Osawa in the mid-1960s. It is generally referred to in English as Sanpaku eyes and refers to the eyes in which either the white space above or below the iris is revealed. Yin Sanpaku, aka scleral show, in medical terms. So again, this is more scientific than opinion, right? Allegedly. Says it affects about half of people to some degree. According to a 2020 study that measured 123 volunteers who lacked eye diseases, some 19% of the total had a more pronounced scleral show, a millimeter or more. What does science say about Sanpaku eyes? What are Sanpaku eyes in psychopaths? So again, this is getting more to the predator and prey point. It says Yang Sanpaku in particular became associated with mental illness and psychopathic traits, including aggression, tendency towards angry or violent outbursts. All right, so real quick, we're gonna take a little look at just some other things around the internet, and maybe some other people in media that have this similar type of eye characteristic. I really don't even know what to call it, you feel me? So this is a Republican from Florida, Rick Scott. Young lady up here says this man has the Sanpaku eyes of a psychopathic killer. And this is kind of a little breakdown. If the white of a person's eyes are visible either below or above the colored portion or iris, that person is said to have Sanpaku eyes. And when you look at these 5 examples on the side right here, looking at the first one, says this person maybe exhibits stress in life somewhere. Depth perception and peripheral vision is off. They may be accident prone. All right. We look at this next example. Says they may be noticing a lot of pressure. Be aware of the situation. These eyes want to unload. Number 3 right here says be very cautious. Extreme pressure. These eyes are hiding something. Number 4 says, don't walk, run away. These eyes have psychotic tendencies. Number 5 here, the eyes of a psychopathic killer. These eyes want to gain power of you. That's going back to like the predator-prey thing, right? That's animal kingdom stuff. That's nature, right? But these are just unique human features. So I just want to come back around to the point of this type of action, right? And this is just, this is just a small, minuscule part of just this type of character trait that we're speaking on. But it says the aggressive mimicry often involves the predator employing signals which draw its potential prey towards it. A strategy which allows predators to simply sit and wait for prey to come to them. You know what I mean? I think a lower amount of predators, and when we speaking on in the human context, right? A lesser amount of predators, but I think there is some number of them that prey on other people. This is something that they have in their nature to do. They're doing it kind of like unwittingly, unknowingly, whether it's some sort of imbalance that they have or what have you. You know what I mean? But I would say more so, again, when you're dealing with a person of this nature with these type of traits, that again, they're the type to prey on other people. I think that's also what this is saying, is that there are things that they do to actively minimize their threat to others, to the community, and that's in all kind of different contexts. Again, just in the human species, right? Those that harm others, they're gonna do things to be able to prolong the harm that they're causing to others. And I'm sure in some later videos we're gonna get a little bit deeper into that. I'm sure there's a lot of that. Anybody that's watching this, we come to see that's been way more prevalent, like online and between genders, between different age groups. You know what I mean? And that's a problem, fam. So again, that's kind of what we pointing out in this video, is just things to look out for on a baseline level, on a core human level, right? And again, like when we get back to people like homegirl right here, and I would say I guess ultimately what I'm trying to point out is just how prevalent this is in the upper class, in the celebrity class, you know, in the again, people that the media initially will come out and tell you, oh, this is a good person, you should follow this person, you should want to be like this person. It's not even just down to the physical characteristics, but there are different things that these people will employ as a strategy against others, ultimately to take advantage. So this is something else, going back to Homegirl right here, right?
The convicted fraudster and former CEO of blood testing startup Theranos often surprised people with her unusually deep voice.
Sure. Over the last 11 years, we've reinvented the traditional laboratory infrastructure. Well, it's wonderful to be here. I started this company because...
Those who knew her in college, such as Stanford professor Phyllis Gardner, claimed that Elizabeth Holmes did not have the deep voice back then.
And what about the deep voice? Did she have the deep voice when you were dealing with her?
No, I was shocked when I heard her voice because I'd met her before. I certainly, that is a voice you don't forget in a woman. Oh, hello.
So what did her real voice sound like? There are old interviews floating around on the web in which she sounded
Why would somebody feel the need to do something like that, fam?
He had a nub on his elbow, and we talked to our lab team, and they said, okay, you can do the draw. And so they did this, what would have been a finger stick on this little nub on his arm. And sure, over the last 11 years, we've reinvented the traditional lab
Peep the turtleneck
structure.
In a 2023 interview with the New York Times, shortly before she was due to begin an 11-year sentence for fraud, Elizabeth Holmes finally admitted that the voice was fake. The former Silicon Valley CEO said she had faked her voice in order to be taken more seriously and to not be seen as a little girl.
So again, youngest self-made female billionaire with a company she founded that ultimately was found out to be defrauding regular people, you know, sick people, people that needed health advice. This lady in particular went as far as to dress like somebody else that a lot of other people found to be a great influence, again, Steve Jobs, but also even go as far as to like change her voice when speaking with people as a strategy, purposefully. And her excuse ultimately is she supposedly did it because she herself didn't want to be seen as inferior, I guess. And I mean, again, this is up to you to come to your own conclusion. I bring this example up because this is a person that, you know, allegedly, she's serving like 11 years in the joint for the things that she did, the things that she knowingly did, right? So again, when we just look at different examples of again, kind of just the eye structure, I stated a little bit earlier, it's not, I don't personally believe it's always a case of you know, people attempting to defraud others. Kind of what I'm pointing out is just the differences in the people that we see in media versus people that you may know personally, and kind of trying to get you to think, you know. And you can, I'm sure if you think deeply, you know, there's some people that we all unique, right? We all look different, we all think differently. So I definitely don't want anybody to get the impression that, oh, because you look this, you know, particular way, you're bound to do this. You know, I do think we all are here with a certain level of free will and choice in life. I tend to see a high percentage of people in media, right? People that are shown to us that are ultimately put there as an influence on the general public. And I just want you to kind of see some of the similarities between some of those people. Like this group right here, people who have either had tragic backgrounds or unfortunately, you know, they're no longer here due to tragic reasons, right? based on the stories that we're told about these people. And it's usually kind of like surrounded in mystery, and it's never just really, you know, natural cases, again, when you compare them with people that you know personally, and the things that they've gone through. So yet again, another group, these three musicians right here, right? You got Mac Miller right here, and you know, the younger generations. This is somebody that, again, I would say was extremely influential over like anybody born maybe past the 2000s. That was big into hip hop. Definitely had music that I like, you know what I mean? But all three of these gentlemen right here, right? They're showing in their eyes, you know, just look at the similarities here in the faces. But they're showing what's known as yin senpaku eyes, right? Where you can see the white at the bottom. And so this is something that just in different cultures and different traditions, and it's been studied, you know, it's supposedly, you know, there's a correlation between people like this who have lived tragic lifestyles, and some of whom end up suffering a tragic end to those lifestyles, right? You know, due to illness or whatever the case. So then again, we get to the other side where you see, you know, celebrities, media personalities, movie stars, actors, rappers. I would say this is also very big with Western politicians, right? And they have something they display just in the eyes, called yang senpaku, right? That's usually that's an idea that people with that physical trait, that physical characteristic, they possibly have a violent tendency. They are possibly predators that are predisposed to prey on others, right? Again, just in the human sense. So let's take a couple looks at some of those. So real quick, you know, we have these two gentlemen right here, and these are kind of the examples of how the senpaku eye trait can kind of go in either direction. But again, people in media who tend to have this physical characteristic, we just pointing out some of the differences between them and most of the general population. But you got your boy Kevin Spacey right here. And right here, this middle picture, you know, he's showing the yin senpaku eyes, but again, just kind of the dead stare, you know? It's almost like a soullessness. And I would say there's a high number of actors who tend to have this, you know, this look about them, whether it's certain roles that they're playing, but even when you see them in other forms of media, right? You look here, this is it's just something abnormal about it, right? On the right here, we have the famous magician, Harry Houdini. You peep the black and white, right? So there's an idea that even just somebody, a prominent individual that wears a lot of this type of pattern, the black and white, actually with both of them, there's an idea behind that being that you're deceptive in a sense that you play both sides of something. You never really show your true hand of who you are. You're not genuine with people, which is something that, you know, me personally, that's kind of the most important thing to me with the people that I'm dealing with. You know, your genuineness, your trustworthiness. We don't have to agree, you know what I mean? But when you have a deceiving nature about you, to have your needs ultimately met at another's expense, that's kind of what we're looking at right here. And this is possibly a physical representation. So right here on the left, we got another picture of Harry Houdini. This person made a point here. They said Harry Houdini had senpaku eyes, or at least he used them, the evil eye of sorcery. And again, so this person is, you know, I guess kind of making a point that it's maybe not even, again, an uncontrollable trait, but more so something that people in power, prominent people, will use to gain control in some form or fashion over somebody who's unwitting. Again, predator-prey relationship, right? So this person on the right, I'm sure a lot of you guys know who this is. And definitely hit me up in the comments, man. Wherever you watching this at, let me know if you like for me to do an entire episode on the guy on the right here, on Brian Kohlberger, and the scenario that he's found himself in. Because again, this is another thing that I find there's a lot of tragedy in relation to this situation, but also just a lot of misdirection, a lot of mystery with this situation. And for a while, this is about a year old that he's been involved in the unaliving of the Idaho 4, right? Allegedly. And I've just done it. This case has definitely mesmerized me, which is also what can be said about people with these eyes. But this entire case in general, there's just a lot to it. I've collected a lot of information, been doing a lot of digging. A lot of it ultimately doesn't add up, to a bunch of different people. So if you want to see an episode on that, go ahead, let me know down in the comments, man. But yeah, this is just somebody else kind of pointing out a difference that they notice between this gentleman and maybe other people that they may know personally, right? Someone else commented on the bottom right here, the sclera on the top is murderous or a mental imbalance. The sclera below is indulgence or a physical imbalance. That's kind of another description of the different type of Sanpakuai. Now again, here we kind of have another group of people. I don't know. I forget where this lady is from. On the far left right here. I think this is just like a random internet individual. But the person commenting here, pretty much everyone with the clown here has these eyes, and I'm not gonna agree or disagree with that. You just come to your own conclusion on, again, maybe possible connections that you see with certain physical attributes. I believe the young lady on the left right here, though, works in the health field. And this is something that I've personally noticed. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, that in my personal life, I have noticed kind of an increase in people that work in the health field that, again, tend to kind of share some very similar attributes, physical attributes, right? And also similar personality traits, which, to some degree, that's expected. But again, when you kind of take everything in totality, it's just something that maybe I wasn't as perceptive before. Maybe it's been happening all along and I never really noticed. But again, just taking a look at these faces, y'all let me know. What is it? What feeling does it give you? Do you get a safe feeling, a comforting feeling around people who will look at you like this? Do you know people who look like this and look at you like this? What type of people are they? Then we got your boy on the right. A lot of you all are, again, probably aware of this situation that he was involved in. And it's like, this is a guy that supposedly just randomly flipped out and unalived this specific number of people, right? And this was a manager. This was a person that worked his way up the ranks to the position that he was in, right? And then just out of nowhere, he flipped out. And I want you to take a look at this guy's face. And you all tell me, is this a trustworthy looking individual? We're not here to judge a book by its cover, because again, everybody is unique. Everybody has choices that they make in life. But at the same time, I think it's very important being able to read people, Something else outside of the eyes that I want to point out to you, again, on Buddy on the right here, is the eyebrows. And that's something else that, I've heard mentioned before, that just people with a certain facial structure, but even down to like the natural shape of their eyebrows, there's things to to be learned from that, you know? There's things to be discerned from that. Now, again, we just had here, you feel me, a few more examples from around the internet, from Twitter. This person saying every time the psycho craze Sanpaku eyes, if the whites above someone's irises show, run for the hills, folks. This person right here is saying, Sanpaku psycho eyes, psyoping you into buying this particular cryptocurrency or else. That a trustworthy face to you all? You got this guy, whatever situation this was, it says, getting hassled by Canadian border guards for crossing the border into Canada with a concealed permit and not the actual thing that the permit is for, just the permit, right? And this person here is saying the border guard has Sanpaku eyes. They say, this is Cash Patel. If someone's official government photo for a federal position of prestige looks like a mugshot, that's usually a sign of a problem. Look at this man, fam. We all know who this is. My guy here says the inability of most people to recognize psycho Sanpaku eyes has been a disaster for politics. Again, you know, just come to your own conclusion on that. But think about that. Think about these people's faces and what they tell you. Peep the physical characteristics of these guys here, you know, that have all allegedly unalived people, right? Do they look like the people that's in your family? Do they look like people? Do they look like you? Do they look like people that you know or that you admire? You feel me? Even something else here, something, again, a term that some people would call a trickster smile. So these type of people with these certain, you know, dispositions, allegedly, they come in all shapes and sizes, right? But can you discern what you're seeing right here? Like, come on now. I know a lot of the ladies love Shorty right here in the middle, right? We all know who this is. But this person that posted is asking, why is she smiling like that? You know? And I wonder the same. I wonder, you know, just the entire face, the entire look, something that influences all type of different women, but also young girls, you know? You know, it's an old song. Smiling faces tell lies, right? It's just like the wolf that we were looking at earlier in the video. It looks like a sheep, you know, in the human sense, you know. A lot of people find this lady here physically attractive, but what's underneath that? Is anything being used by her to make what's on the inside seem less threatening? You know, the garments. We look over here and they say, I actually want to dive deeper into this and relate it to the Sanpaku eyes and this trickster smile we often see in media and mentally compromised people. She says it's really easy to read people and energy once you know what signs and patterns you're looking for. Says Paramount, I guess that's the movie production company, right? Millions and millions of dollars spent on advertising and again, production. It's not just the genuine raw, hey, we're going to show you this, and it's all based on talent. And we know people are like it. The content that we put out, it'll stand on its own 2 feet because the talent level is just that high. No, this company is in the business of putting on a production. Another term is dressing a pig up with lipstick, right? We all know who this is on the right here. This person is asking, do you see it? Sanpaku, Evil Eye, Kubrick stare. Stanley Kubrick, right? Very famous movie director. Your guy on the far right, you know, and I'm not even sure if this is a real picture or not, but your boy SBF Sam Bankman-Fried, allegedly maybe even a fall guy for something even bigger than himself, right? But allegedly fried a bunch of people's bank accounts. It's just like our girl Elizabeth Holmes, right? What can you discern from these people? And you take a look here, like what do these three famous Hollywood celebrities have in common with each other? What do you notice? What do you notice? Let me know in the comments. It's some similarities. It has nothing to do with race. You know, it has nothing to do with the career path that they're in. Maybe more so the business that they're involved in, you know, but that's a whole nother subject. Two of these three people have been in some recent trouble, right? And actually for kind of similar things. And again, maybe it's a reach. Maybe none of it's connected.
Goddamn way, this is my natural. I don't need to be ashamed of what the natural. You know what I'm saying? This ain't no goddamn way. This is my natural. I don't need to be ashamed of what the natural. You know.
My girl, we was like brothers. All night we would play fight under covers. Now
I should.
Fresh off the garden stage. That's my brother right here from day one. We used to wake up and pause, but like check this out. I mean, back in the days when he was like 10 and I was a little bit older, his older brother, we used to fight over the frosted flakes. You know what I'm saying? Before pause was invented. You know what I'm saying? But it's my brother for real. We used to actually wrestle off of the frosted flakes because he used to always get up early. Now he's one of the richest stars in the world. And
Yo, what the fuck did Puff just say?
I mean,
On the left, you got your girl Bonnie Drip, right? Getting interviewed by 16 Shot 'em, man. Shout out to 16 Shot 'em, right? Do a lot of good in-depth interviews with people tied to the music industry, Chicago, you know. It's a recent interview. And I believe she's some sort of rapper, musician, something like that, right? But yeah, you know, if you do a little bit of looking into her background, you know, she's accused of some horrible things. Multiple people unalived, right? But it's like it's a smiling face, so it couldn't be, right? And again, it's all accusations, you know? Just like with your boy right here. Just accusations. This is a super old picture, you know, and I can't speak to the validity of this picture. But if this is real, fam, this is deep. This is deep. It says, what are the odds that 3 teenage friends grow up to lead 3 countries? On your left, you got Angela Merkel, Theresa May. Man, I forget. I think her name is like Dalia Grybauskaite. I don't know how you pronounce that last name, you know. Leader of Lithuania. Former, right? In the UK Parliament, right? Prime Minister, the leader of Germany. Former, right? What do these 3 young ladies have in common? How does this picture make you feel? Now we're gonna get a little bit deeper, right? On the left, we got your boy Jim Watkins, owner of 8chan, excuse me. Like 4chan. It's like another text-based social media app, right? And this is a claim made here, you know. I don't know specifically about him, but to the left of him, we have a high-ranking member, I guess maybe ex-member of the U.S. Army, Michael Aquino, an open worshiper, right? This is the U.S. military. On the right, this person here says, I will continue to post this until it's common knowledge. Mark Randolph, founder of this app that you probably all got on your phone, right? Is the grandnephew of Edward Bernays, inventor of modern propaganda. Peep the eyes. Peep the connection. And the prominence of the bloodline has nothing to do with race, right? They say Bernays was instrumental in drumming up support for the needless unaliving of Europeans and Americans in the First World War. After the war, he worked to addict Western women to smoking by tricking them into thinking it was freedom. Bernays worked tirelessly on methods of brainwashing people into becoming good, rootless consumers. So if you watch my last episode, the biggest slime episode, you know, again, this is like the consumerism, the constant need for convenience. It's unnatural for human beings. It's a psychological thing. It's done by others in a predatory fashion at times. It's done by small groups on the larger general population for the benefit of the small group. Bonus malevolence points for the Sampaku eyes. But we're going to get deeper into this guy right here, because again, this is maybe somebody that you may not know a whole lot about, Michael Aquino, right? So this clip here, this is from a 1988, I believe, or 89 maybe, episode of the show Geraldo Rivera. And I mean, you peep the title, you peep the name down there. But he's going to do a brief interview with Michael Aquino and have him tell you some of his background. And I want you to just understand how far it goes back, much further than just this interview. But again, I want you to get an idea, just the context here and some of the people you may be dealing with in media. But again, you never know. I don't know. You never know the connections of some of these people, but maybe there's a way to discern that. Also at the beginning of this interview here, he's also interviewing another young lady, and we'll do just a little bit of a deeper dive into this young lady's bloodline in a second. But I want you to sit and think, and y'all let me know down in the comment section, right? When this lady comes on the screen, I want you to think of who this lady from this 1980s interview reminds you of. That's another prominent figure in current day, because some people allege that there's a connection between those two people. So you let me know.
Let me introduce you first, though, to Zena LaVey. Her father, Anton LaVey, is, I guess, the founding father of Satanism in this country. Founding it about 25 years ago, Zena?
Yeah, approximately 25 years.
Can you tell us with any certainty how widespread the religion of Satanism is in this country or around the world?
Well, the religion is worldwide.
Keep the eyebrows, right?
Throughout the world, and it's a legitimate religion. Perfectly within it's legal.
But how many people? Hundreds, thousands,
thousands.
Hundreds of thousands?
Fal.
Hundreds of thousands.
Come on, Fal.
Thousands, easily.
What is it, Dr. Aquino? Dr. Aquino, the high priest of the Church of Set?
Temple of Set.
Temple of Set, also a colonel, interestingly enough, in the United States Army. What is it, this Satanism?
I think that there is some confusion tonight because this same term means something different to Satanists than it does to Christians in the United States. By our own standards, the people who you've shown in these film clips would not be Satanists, either present or in the past. Rather, they would be the failures of a conventional religion.
I appreciate your opinion. What is it, sir, then? What is Satanism?
Well, originally the Church of Satan...
Because he definitely didn't answer the question.
...for Christianity, but of people who, by and large, were agnostics and atheists, because they felt that the institutions which had arisen around Christianity had failed in their moral commitment. So Satanism itself became an emphasis on rational self-interest and on taking responsibility for your own intellectual and ethical decisions.
Rational self-interest, you call it.
So his religion is a form of rational self-interest. This is in the 80s, he was a colonel in the Army. And again, just on the physical attribute side of the game, right? But both of these individuals had something going on with the eyebrows as well. And there's some people that would go as far as to say that this young lady right here, she's possibly directly connected to somebody else who's extremely famous in the current music industry now in the year 2024, right? So on the left right here, we have the father of the young lady from that last clip that we were just looking at, Geraldo, right? This is Anton LaVey. This guy here is the founder of the Church of Satan, which is a real religion, you know. That's his right. To worship what he chooses in this country, right? Again, I just want you to discern this face, the symbolism, right? The physical attributes. This person here says those Anton LaVey, Peter H. Gilmore brows. If you know, you know, right? It's not always prominent Sampaku eyes. Other details will show you who's who. This person is asking, what do you notice about their eyebrows and their eyes? You feel me? You know, I can't prove it. It's also been alleged, you know, this guy right here had a child with another prominent woman, an actress, or someone related to Hollywood named Jane Mansfield, right? And it's alleged, there's pictures floating around, but that another one of his daughters is a woman named Mariska Hargitay, right? And I'm sure a lot of you know what she's famous for. Very major TV show, Law and Order. That's supposedly another one of his daughters. And just like the young lady was saying in that one post, again, you peep the eyebrows, you peep some of the other physical attributes, but I also want you all to take into account some of the different symbolism that these people use. Some things that are kind of placed around them in an unassuming fashion. And ask yourself, is that what we learned as aggressive mimicry? Hiding their harmfulness, hiding their threatening nature, right? With symbols. What do the symbols mean? You know, growing up where I grew up at, it was a fair amount of gangbanging going on. A lot of street gangs. And kind of something that I learned at a young age, how to not become a victim of the street gang activity, what some people would call having street smarts, as opposed to, you know, maybe book smarts, would be understanding certain things about gang culture, right? Understanding some of the symbols and the practices of different gangs, different groups that engage in predatory activity. And just having, again, that core baseline understanding of those things that those different groups do, I would argue it makes it easier to avoid becoming prey to a predator like that. When you understand what certain gang signs are, when you understand what certain gang colors are, it's like the young lady was saying in that one post, if you know, you know. If you don't, you smoke, right? We see this hand sign, a similar version of this hand sign, something very similar all the time. I see this with younger and younger people. Nobody has given me an explanation. Nobody that I've seen use that hand sign has given me an explanation of what that means. When I was growing up, that was very similar to a gang called the Latin Kings and the hand sign that they would use. And the hand sign itself was done to symbolize something, fam. So when I see people doing something very similar, people in my life today that I know to be good people, it's on me to share the information that I have kind of about the etymology of some of these things, the background. And also, again, I feel like through conversation on these topics like this that we may be, conflicted about. This is how I learn personally as well. This is how I increase my knowledge, increase my wisdom. This is how I feel that I'm still here alive today and haven't been prey to certain types of other predators. So I told y'all before, I spent a very short part of my life incarcerated. And I'll say that's kind of initially how I started coming to some of these conclusions that I have just on different people that have committed, some of the most heinous acts in our society, right? And at a certain point, I read this book, and again, this book has stuck with me for so long, fam, for years. And the older I get, the more, again, heinousness that I see from the media allegedly going on in our society, the more this book in particular makes sense to me. It's called Program to Kill: The Politics of Serial Murder by David McGowan. And just looking at the cover, you may recognize some of the names that's on the cover of this book, right? But I want to take you to another creator. Now, this page here, fam, has literally hundreds of videos, all based around the topics in that book, right? Hours and hours worth of audio and visual evidence pointing to the fact that maybe things aren't as they seem. Maybe things aren't as they're not the way that we're told they are, right? Looking at the description here, he says many of the series information comes directly from the book Program to Kill: The Politics of Serial Murder by author David McGowan. It says serial killers, mass murderers have strong connections with the military, intelligence agencies, drug traffickers, sex rings, occult, Satanism, and secret societies. What many times appears to be the random work of a serial killer or mass murderer is in fact a planned series of crimes often committed for specific purposes. Allegedly, of course. It says condemnation without investigation is the highest form of ignorance. I want you all to think about that, fam. So I know this episode went way longer than expected, If you made it to the end, man, shout out to you. Because again, I know a lot of this info is deep. Some of it is hard to hear, Some of it you may not agree with, and I completely understand. I totally get it. Some things I could be wrong on, And I accept that. But I accept that with proof. You feel me? With hard evidence. Any theories that we all have in our own minds, they should be able to stand up to scrutiny. We should be able to test them. We should be able to conversate on them and come to stronger conclusions if those ideas stand up to that scrutiny, right? But we got to start having conversations about these type of things. If you have loved ones that you care about, definitely if you have a faith in Christ, right? Because this new age stuff, a lot of the stuff that we get through media these days, the things that sound good, that make us feel good, I think a lot of it never actually gets to the bottom of what we're really dealing with in a spiritual sense. Even if you're not a spiritual person, I think once you see enough evidence with your own two eyes, it's kind of hard to deny some of the characteristics, some of the physical similarities, and the similarities with those groups, the similarities with the symbols. So definitely at some point we'll be coming back doing another part 2 to this video. Again, anybody who checked this out, man, you're greatly appreciated. Much love for all the support. And again, all the feedback. If you like the content, man, go ahead and like the content. Subscribe to the channel. I'm coming with way more. I'm only getting better, right? It hasn't been the easiest transition from rapping and making explicit music to trying to put all this together, and this is a one-man show at the moment. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one. Peace out. This Plausible Deniability.